Welcome back. Joining us now is David Hatter from Libertas Technologies, who's been a longtime guest on Northern Kentucky Magazine and ICN, and you have a new award from. Tell us about it.
Well, actually, we were really excited this year. We won the Greater Cincinnati Chamber of Commerce's Small Business of the Year Award in the 1 to 50 employee category.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting because, that's a big organization,
Yeah.
and we had some incredibly stiff competition, and we were pretty shocked that we won.
Well, you do a great job, buddy. Congratulations.
Pretty exciting stuff.
All right, what are we talking about today? Social networking and how to avoid doing something stupid.
Social networking and reputation management. Reputation management is a newer term that's come up because as you get more exposure out there in the world through social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, that kind of thing, you have the potential to do yourself a lot of damage if you don't think about the kind of stuff you're posting. And as importantly, the potential persistence of this stuff. Once you hit send, even if you go delete it, that doesn't mean it's gone, and it can literally live on forever.
And you learned that with an email you had sent one time.
I did. This is going back a ways, but I learned this the hard way. Back in my first job out of college was at Millicron. We had just recently got an internet email. So I was all excited about this, and I read a story in a magazine, PC Week at the time, now eWeek, about Lotus Notes and how it's a great product, but companies don't really understand the value proposition, and it's very expensive, so consequently they won't use it. Well, I had been beating this drum like crazy there, okay? And no one was listening, and because I wasn't explaining it right, okay? So I replied to an article in PC Week. I sent this guy an email, okay? And this shows you the unintended consequences that can result from this. Sent this guy an email. This was not a letter to the editor. I replied to his email address, this individual specifically. Don't think another thing about it. 2 weeks later, I go down to my mailbox. I get out PC Week. I'm flipping through the pages. I get to the editorial section. And suddenly it's like a deja vu. I'm like, oh my God, I've read this before. How is this possible? And then I see my name at the bottom. Dave Hatter, Systems Analyst, Cincinnati Millicron. Now, you know me pretty well, Pat.
Right.
And I got to tell you, great company. I loved working there, okay?
Yeah.
But when you read what I said outside the context of the article, it pretty much more or less seemed to say, the senior management here is cheap and silly and don't get this, which certainly was not my intent. So this wave of panic sweeps over me. It's like, oh my God, I'll never work in this town again. This is one of the most well-known, reputable companies in town. So I then set out to find and destroy every copy of PC Week that I could find there. Still had to wear a coat and tie, so I'm tucking these babies under the coat, chucking them in the garbage. And long-term, nothing has ever come of this, but that goes to show you, when I hit send, it never occurred to me that would end up reprinted in a magazine with my name on it.
It's great advice.
And anything that you put out there, you got to understand, let's say that you use Facebook or Twitter or whatever. As soon as you post something, let's say 10 seconds later, you regret that you posted that, so you go delete it. Well, it may have already hit my screen, and I've made a printed copy. I've captured a print screen of it. I shared it through my wall. I mean, there's all these unintended consequences of this stuff, and you really got to consider what you're putting out there and the fact that you may or may not ever be able to get rid of it.
Are we going to show anything? Are we going to show anything up today? I know, and I used to do this with when I wrote letters, but I sent an email this morning to my boss that I ended up discarding because it was pretty, I was a little aggressive in it. So I know what you're talking about. And I tell my kids, I have teenagers, I'll tell them all the time to watch what they put on here.
A lot of it is just, again, stopping to think, how is this going to come off to someone else? And is it something that I would want to show up in a venue like this? Again, I send you something and you forward it on to someone else and they go, well, that's crazy. People are losing their jobs over this stuff. People are being sued over this stuff. I don't know if you heard the story about the girl from Cisco. In fact, we'll do a little live Twitter here.
All right.
We're on Twitter now. A lot of people ask me, what is Twitter? It's gotten extremely popular here as of late. I'm not a huge Twitter fan. I personally get a lot more value out of LinkedIn and Facebook. But there are ways you can connect them. So like when I post this on Twitter, it'll also show up in Facebook and LinkedIn.
All right.
So I'm going to say here, we'll just say live with Pat Crowley. So when I send this out, in the studio, live with Pat Crowley.
We're tweeting, Chris.
We're tweeting real-time live from the studio here. Isn't it a great world?
This is.
Okay.
Thanks to the space program, which I made the point on when I first started.
There you go. A lot of this wouldn't exist if it weren't for that.
Absolutely.
So I've got 238 followers on Twitter, about 1,000 people on Facebook, and about 1,700 people on LinkedIn. Most of them are going to see this message here. My point is I hit send on this, right? So anyone now who's following me on Twitter will get this message, okay? They can come in and read it. Someone could easily do this. Now watch this. I don't like what Dave said, and I'm going to make him pay for this at some point in the future. I hit copy. I go in. I open up my Outlook. I create an email. I save this. I mail it. I send it later. 10 years from now, this could come up again, long after I've forgotten that I did it, because I've copied this to the clipboard, and as soon as this pops up here, we'll go back over. But my point is, I could just as easily come here and do a print screen of this. There's no way you can stop me from doing that. There's no way you can know what I did with it. And that's another thing people have to think about. Outlook wants me to log in. Another thing you've got to think about, people, these tools all have privacy settings.
Yeah.
And if you use Facebook, you can say, well, Pat's my friend and Joe's my business associate, and I want to keep those things separate. Well, I may not realize that you and Joe are connected, and what I post, even though it only shows up for you, you share, shows up to Joe, and now all of a sudden, I've got a problem.
Yep.
Another problem with Facebook in particular is, as you connect to people, they can share things, put your name associated with it, and stuff that you may not want shows up associated with you. It's quite a trick because, if you're in business for yourself, like I am, obviously having a good reputation is a key aspect of business. And trying to manage this stuff and understand not only what you're doing, but what other people are saying about you. Because, you're sort of in the public eye. I'm sure you plug into this,
Well, the New York Times did a great series of stories last year that I made my daughter read, who's in college, about kids putting pictures of themselves partying and other things on
Pat,
Facebook, and it came back to bite them in job interviews.
That is an excellent point. I've done numerous seminars on LinkedIn in particular. LinkedIn, if you're in a business-to-business business like me, and you're working with other businesses, there's no more powerful tool in the world than LinkedIn for trying to connect with other business professionals. Facebook, if you're in a B2C space, selling to consumers, and just for sharing information with friends and so forth, is probably a little better there. But people go out there all the time, and the keg stand that you were doing when you were in college, that might be funny then.
Right.
But I've done numerous LinkedIn seminars with as many as 100 people show up. There's always recruiters in the room, and I always ask, as part of this reputation management part of the discussion, how many of you are recruiters? People raise their hand. Okay, for you recruiters out there, how many of you are going to LinkedIn and Facebook and looking up candidates? Every one of them raises their hand. So here's the thing. Now you've got that picture out there of you. They find this, or they get connected to someone that knows you because you think you've hidden this kind of stuff and only shared it with your friends. And people are not only losing their jobs as a result of this, they're not getting hired. Did you hear the story about the girl in San Francisco with Cisco?
No, you mentioned that.
Yeah, she got a pretty good job offer from Cisco, and then went on Facebook and made some sort of comment about, she didn't really, I don't remember exactly what she said, but someone sent that back to the hiring manager at Cisco, and they basically said, don't bother to show up. The job offer's been rescinded.
And Cisco's a hell of a company, so that would have been a great job.
It is. And, I mean, people are just, you could post something out there. Obviously, you've got issues of libel and slander.
Yeah.
I mean, you could post something that you think is totally innocuous, and now maybe because you don't understand in your organization, you've shared your customers' confidential and proprietary information, and now you've got your company in a lawsuit.
But, Dave, because I blog, a political blog, and it's and I know you've been on there before. It's unbelievable what people will put on some of the comments, and they think they're anonymous.
That's exactly
and they're not
right.
really anonymous. I mean, if they really libel somebody or go after somebody, I'm sure some type of forensic computer person could track that down and see who that is.
Absolutely. Everything you do on the internet is ultimately traceable to an IP address. And even if you go to a library or something, it can eventually be traced back to that machine. If you've had to log in any way, it's almost impossible to be truly anonymous on the internet. And anyone that really thinks they're anonymous, especially if they're doing this from their own home, is absolutely and totally wrong.
There's been some stories in the New York Times and Washington Post over the last several weeks. It's fascinating about the Obama administration's putting a lot of money into cybersecurity, and also a unit that if we want to launch cyber attacks against an enemy, we can, and we're also preparing for attacks against us. That's fascinating to me.
Well, it's, here's the thing. Obviously, technology is becoming increasingly intertwined with business.
Yeah.
I mean, almost any business, even small businesses now, rely so much on technology to do their daily operations, and obviously the government itself relies on technology. So, foreign hackers, whether they're governments or they're just people looking to steal identities, realize the power of this stuff. And obviously, think about what happened with 9/11.
Yeah.
Okay, if suddenly, and I don't know if you ever heard of an EMP bomb, this is a concern, right? You set off enough of an electromagnetic pulse, it wipes out all the computers. Imagine what would happen if every computer in the greater Cincinnati region just shut down.
Well, didn't we have an incident just in the last couple of weeks that it was traced, I think, to the Ukraine or to Russian mobsters or something?
North Korea's been
North Korea. It was North Korea the latest,
Here's the thing. Most people don't understand that, okay, I'm here on Facebook now, right? And you post something on my wall on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I read it. Well, someone could have hacked your account. Most people don't understand password security. They use their dog's name, their kids. It's something easily guessable. So if I can guess your account, I can log into Facebook as you, and then I can post stuff that looks like you're doing it. So I trust it. I click on it. It downloads a virus on my machine. And that virus could do anything like a keystroke logger. There's software that will literally track every single keystroke you type in and send it back over the internet. I'll tell you, if we have time, I got another actual personal story that happened to me on Facebook. Facebook has a built-in chat mechanism, okay? Anyone who happens to also be on Facebook at the same time as me, I can chat with them real-time messages, okay?